Transport Minister Omar Alghabra was one of the cabinet ministers who made the vaccination announcement. He's in Mississauga. Minister, thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. I'd like to start by asking you a direct question. If a federal public servant refuses to get vaccinated, will that person be fired?
Katie, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you and your viewers. Today is a big announcement that Canadians, I feel, are so supportive of. To answer your question, those specific, we are, first of all, making sure that individuals who have legitimate reasons that ask for an exemption will be accommodated. And those individual cases will be dealt with through the traditional public service way, through the Office of Human Resources and other resources that are available to accommodate those who have legitimate medical or otherwise reasons. But I could say that today we're announcing that all federal public servants will be mandated to be fully vaccinated.
Okay, we heard the announcement earlier today, and we understand that there are going to be exemptions for those who medically can't get vaccinated. But if someone just refuses to get a vaccine, will they be fired?
Public service has its own independent way of managing its employees, of addressing issues. So there's unions involved, there are managements involved. So, there are all kinds of ways of addressing issues through employees and employer relationship. And that's how it's going to be dealt with.
But you're making this announcement. The public wants to know, particularly public servants. We'll talk about reaction in a moment. But by and large in Canada, vaccine uptake has been very enthusiastic. Canada is leading the way in G20 countries when it comes to that. But there are going to be individuals that are not going to get vaccinated. You wouldn't be making this announcement if that weren't the case. So what are the repercussions if someone refuses to get a vaccine simply on the basis that they don't want one?
Katie, to your point, Canadians have stepped up. We are leading the world in vaccination rate. And today's announcement is a decisive action to set a leadership, to set an example, and to help get us through the final miles of this war with COVID. It is really important. We needed to set an example. We needed to ensure that we have safe workplaces, safe workspaces for all employees. You're asking me about potential individual situations. And as I'm saying, there are processes in place within public service to deal with those issues.
It's just unclear. As someone who's watching this announcement, I watched the entire news conference, read the backgrounder. You make an announcement saying it's mandatory. The goal you're trying to hit is more people vaccinated, trying to make workplaces more safe. But what happens? I still don't know the answer to what happens to the individual who just refuses to get a vaccine. What happens to the anti-vaxxer? I'm just curious. I just don't know.
Yeah, Katie, look, it's not unusual for an employer to set conditions and conditions about the workplace, about a safe workplace, just like we do for all kinds of cases and all kinds of processes and all kinds of conduct. This is another conduct that we're requiring. And we set in place, the public service has in place a way to resolve these issues. So I'm not going to generalize. I'm not going to preempt what individual cases and how they will be dealt with. All I'm saying is that we're setting the policy framework. We are setting the regulatory framework, and then public service itself will deal with these individuals based on their concerns, based on their needs.
So I still don't understand what happens if someone refuses what if someone refuses to get a vaccine and works for the federal public service? What happens?
Katie, you're asking me to give one answer to a hypothetical situation.
Well, but you made this announcement with respect, sir. You made this announcement. This is the goal. Your goal is to get more people vaccinated. Your goal is in the workplaces, in federal transport spaces, that kind of thing. Given the uptake in vaccines, I suspect this is going to. So far, the reaction we've seen is very positive toward this. But I'm just curious, what happens? That there are going to be individuals who are not going to want to get vaccinated in these workspaces when it comes to travel. you're going to have to get vaccinated to participate. That's a different issue. But for people who have jobs and don't want to get vaccinated, what are you guys going to do?
With all due respect, Katie, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but let me tell you again, there is a process that is established within public service, managed by the public service to resolve issues of concern between employer and employees. And this will be no exemption. We have now set up a policy framework and expectations. And now the public service is going to go out there, implement it. And for individual cases that may vary, may require an exemption, may require a resolution, it will be dealt with independently. I don't think it should be politicized. I don't think I'm here in a position to pronounce on it. It's going to be up to the public service through its own processes to resolve it. However, we're very clear and unequivocal about this. We are setting the policy. We are taking leadership. We are requiring all federal employees to be fully vaccinated, and all federally regulated sectors in the transportation field to be also fully vaccinated.
Okay, you said you're not going to politicize this, and I take your point here, but you're announcing this 2 days before an anticipated election call. This is expected to be the wedge issue of the campaign. We've already had the response from the Conservatives saying they support Canadians' right to determine their own health choices. Are you not using this as a wedge issue to kick off the election campaign?
Honestly, Katie, I never dreamt of somebody asking me if we are, by following public health advice and following science, it would be a controversial or it would be a political wedge.
The thing is, but in an election campaign, 2 days before a campaign, it is a political thing. Are you telling me that the Liberals are not going to campaign on this? Look, we want to make vaccines are popular in Canada. This is a popular thing. You're not going to get out there and say, listen, we're the party that wants to make things safe, that kind of thing, and you're going to contrast this with other parties and their messages? Of course it's political. In addition to not just political, but you can't say it's not political 2 days before an election.
No, what I'm saying is the individual cases should not be politicized. You keep asking me about individual cases, and I'm saying I cannot politicize the outcome of those individual cases. As far as, if there is a disagreement between parties about vaccination, I think the other parties should really explain themselves. This is governing in action. This is the federal government setting a leadership, setting an example for all employers, for all Canadians. We want to establish safe and healthy workplace spaces for everyone. And we are taking a decisive action. We are in the middle of a pandemic, Katie. We need to do whatever it takes, as we promise Canadians, to keep them safe. This is another step in our decisive implementation to protect Canadians. If other parties disagree with this, I think they should answer those questions to Canadians. But we are very confident that this is the right thing to do for Canadians.
Are all sitting Liberal MPs vaccinated?
I'm not able to speak on behalf of all of my colleagues. I can tell you I am fully vaccinated.
But if you're implementing policy that federal workspaces need to be vaccinated, have fully vaccinated employees, should your party not be able to say whether your team and your slate of candidates are fully vaccinated?
Absolutely. I think that's a reasonable question. And yes, I think people should expect the government to follow its own example. And yes, I think it's a reasonable question. So, but you just asked me if I can answer on behalf of the party. I can't do that, but I can tell you it's a reasonable question. It's a good question. And yes, Canadians expect politicians to set an example and to follow the lead of following public health advice and getting vaccinated.
I do have a logistical question for you. I got some notes on Twitter from people wondering about kids under the age of 12. There are no vaccines for kids under that age. What about traveling on planes or on trains? Are kids going to be able to travel? Are there exceptions for people who are not eligible to be vaccinated? How are kids, specifically for kids?
Yes, kids will be exempted, Katie. As far as I know right now, there's no vaccine that has been recommended for kids under 12. So as of today, or as of now, right now, kids will be exempted. And people who also have other reasons for not being fully vaccinated, accommodation can take place, including testing measures or screening measures. So, but it will, again, we will take it as a case-by-case basis, but the requirement would be that passengers traveling via air or train need to be fully vaccinated.
My last question to you is, did you, when you came up with this policy, did you consult with lawyers about whether this is legal, and are you bracing for legal challenges?
Katie, we consulted with many experts and legal experts, and let me just say, it is not uncommon for a government to regulate the health and safety of workplaces. Governments in general of all levels put in place rules to ensure and protect the health and safety of workers, of communities, of passengers, of travelers. So it's not uncommon. I don't know. I can't speak on behalf of people who may be willing to take a legal challenge, but we feel confident that this is a good policy. And by the way, let me repeat again: we are in the middle of a pandemic. We've had significant lockdowns. We've had significant economic losses. Canadians don't want to go back to lockdowns. Canadians don't want to see significant job losses. You know, I can tell you, airline workers and airport workers do not want to see the travel volume that we saw at the height of the pandemic. We need to ensure that everyone's safety and health is protected. We want to avoid lockdowns, and the best way out of the pandemic is through vaccination.
Minister, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Katie.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.